Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava and this is Speedplay Touggourt number 18. We pick up where we left off in a war against a coalition that most notably includes Austria. They are just dominating our Ottoman allies, but we've finished the war on basically every other front, with the exception of a bit to deal with in Kaffa. We are winning fairly well against the Papal State at the moment, which is great news. Unfortunately, a small Austrian force attacks us in Venice, and it looks as though they're just going to defeat that force, which they do, and a Papal army moves into Milan, but gets attacked by the French. Ultimately, what we're going to have to do, probably we will leave the Ottomans to their own front and just move up into Austria over the Alps. We'll start shipping over more and more forces as we no longer have anything to worry about other than Kaffa, but they're not actually in the coalition, so we can piece them out separately. So we're going to just keep funneling forces over to Venice and then into Austria proper. And we've already fought one war against Austria where this was the tactic that we used to win. Admittedly, back then, our Ottoman allies had been doing better, but I'm not too concerned this time around. Now, we fully sieged out the Papal State, other than one province occupied by Milan. Hopefully they'll make peace before we do, and we'll be able to take Rome itself. Now, our Ottoman allies aren't doing too great, but they're not doing too terribly. They do have a significant amount of force, and ultimately they just need to hold the Austrians up while we invade them. We do make peace with Kaffa, and that basically settles the entire front down south. Now, we do have to worry about Austrian armies maybe picking off some of our smaller stacks, but other than that we can move forward in relative safety. One of our colonial nations is almost completely overrun by rebels, and we'll have to deal with that. Ultimately, though, we're in a pretty good spot. They do have an army coming towards us, but hopefully we can avoid that, and we are having a bit of a rebel issue, but hopefully it's nothing too concerning. And we do go ahead and begin shipping our forces over. We can't get naval access, which is a bit unfortunate. Hopefully we'll remember them, though, and not lose those boats to attrition. Now we begin moving around to avoid this Austrian army. It just attacks, and our army is not doing well at all. We bring all of our available forces. However, even with all those reinforcements, we are not winning this battle. We begin pulling all of our sieging stacks away, and we pull our forces back, hopefully in a controlled manner, and I check to see if we can make peace, but we cannot. So with that all said and done, we move our forces down into southern Italy, deal with that rebellion, and we're probably going to carry those forces over to the mainland. Meanwhile, the rebels broke our colonial nation, which is now an absolute monarchy instead of a colonial government, but it didn't break their relation with us, so I don't really care. And we do have to deal with a rebellion in Persia, so we bring our forces over to deal with that. Now, these forces will probably end up just dealing with rebellions, as it seems to be the most likely thing. Our Ottoman allies still not doing fantastic, but the rebellion is now cleared up, and we now have to consider what our next course of action is going to be. First of all, we lost one of our advisors, so we're going to go ahead and hire a new one. We're going to get the guy who gives us a bit more tax, and we also go ahead and invest in an idea so that our integration of funds will go quicker. Now, at this point, I'm not really considering actively fighting the Austrians anymore, as that last battle really proved that we just do not have enough power to take them on. Our army just gets destroyed by them, so we're going to go ahead and reshuffle our focus somewhere else. When the Ottomans eventually peace out, we will probably get a bit higher war score, as I imagine that all the sieges of Ottoman lands are taking them back. Meanwhile, the Spanish Empire has completely collapsed, so we have a prime opportunity to go ahead and just seize the West Indies. So we go ahead, kill all the natives in our new colonies, and begin shipping forces over, and we go ahead and declare war on Haiti. This is pretty great. It gives us an opportunity to expand away from the Austrians. Unfortunately, they do send a force into Italy, but that does mean Milan has peaced out, so we can take that final province of the Papal State, which is great news. And at this point, we're just going to shuffle our armies back and forth to avoid getting stack wiped by the Austrians. and we go ahead and focus a bit on our war in the Americas. Now, at this point, we still can't make peace. We go ahead and destroy this one rebellion and just sort of move our forces back and forth in Italy to avoid an Austrian attack. We move back to the hills, and they are quick to follow. Taking the province that our army had just been in, we go ahead and raise another army of 20,000 men and begin moving forces back from the Middle East in order to fight the Austrians. Meanwhile, our sieges in the New World are going fairly well, and we can just hope to continue without any real trouble. We begin shipping our forces over to Italy, with the goal basically being that with enough numbers, we should probably be able to hopefully defeat this Austrian force. It doesn't look as though they have their 3-star general, which is amazing news and is basically the thing that made me actually commit to this. And we just dominate them. Admittedly, we had 160,000 men to significantly less men, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. We're going to go ahead and ship 40,000 men over to the New World and keep the remaining 120,000 men in Italy, moving them up to the top of the Papal State. With one army in reserve, the Austrians attack. We, instead of shipping our forces to the New World, send those 40,000 men back. We win the battle, and now we can ship them over to the New World with a lot less concern. Meanwhile, the Ottomans are essentially breaking with a large number of rebellions, which is very much not an ideal situation, but hopefully that means they will peace out, and if they don't peace out, then it just means their country will break, and we might be able to just go ahead and eat all of their lands. Which is something that I've wanted to do for a very long time, however I haven't been able to justify it. The Ottomans have been far too good of an ally to us to justify turning against them, especially while we have European coalitions. But if they're going to collapse anyway, then we may as well. Meanwhile, we're going to fight essentially the only significant battle in our Haitian campaign, where we go ahead and just destroy their army. We have integrated Funge, which is great news, however they had rebels, which is not as great of news. And that gives us a lot of overextension, as they hadn't actually finished coring a bunch of their Ethiopian lands, so that's going to limit what we're able to get in this peace deal. Luckily, our war in the New World won't give us any overextension, as it'll just go to our colonial nation, and meanwhile we win another large battle in northern Italy. So at this point, first of all, I'm going to take religious ideas, as we have quite a few provinces in need of conversion, and we attempt to chase down an Austrian army. We have more rebellions, and at this point we just don't have enough troops nearby to deal with that. But while that is a concern, it's not that significant of one at this point. If we leave it how it is, though, it may become an issue later on. We support Iraqi rebels in the hope that they will turn on our side and leave our country, but they don't. Meanwhile, we lose a battle in northern Italy, as I just wasn't paying enough attention, but our reserves managed to win it back. And so we just destroy that Iraqi rebellion and stop supporting the rebels and the Ottomans. We will just let nature take its course with their country, and we ship our forces down into East Africa in order that we may hopefully defeat these rebellions and re-siege Ethiopia, as Funge didn't transfer its occupation when we annexed it. Meanwhile, we begin just spreading sieging forces across Cuba and the West Indies in general. We're probably just going to take everything that we can. I go ahead and check in just a second if we can actually fully annex them, but we can't. They have 120% cost, which is a bit unfortunate. We would have been able to make peace annexing Yemen and taking Rome, however the Austrians have managed to send an army through Crimea, through the Ottomans, and into our forces, which is definitely not ideal. We'll have to send our forces back from Italy in order to deal with that Austrian army, and history has shown that our armies do not at all stand up to Austrian armies, and they are there in significant numbers. But in order that we can annex Yemen, we do actually have to own or occupy, at the very least, their provinces. So I begin shipping forces over. Luckily, one of our client states is polite enough to attach one of their armies to ours. And we do have another rebellion. Luckily, the Austrians take care of 2 of their stacks. We launch a large attack against one of the Austrian stacks. It does have a good leader, and it is powerful, and we lose the battle. That is very much not an ideal circumstance. And we go ahead and send our forces over one more time. We're just going to bum rush straight to Yemen. We siege out one of their provinces. The Austrian army is going to catch up to ours before we can get out, and they just destroy it. Luckily, it isn't stack wiped, which is great news. However, they do launch a subsequent attack against our remaining forces in the area and defeat that as well. We go ahead and launch another attack, this time with all of our forces in the surrounding area. We have another rebellion, but we do win, and we just go ahead and attack, taking over the province and making peace. We do manage to get Rome, and we can begin coring all of these provinces, which is fantastic news. We have a lot of rebellions that we need to deal with, but now we can finally put our forces in a position where they're able to take the rebellions on. Meanwhile, our war against Haiti and their other allies is basically over. They have 1 province left, which we'll have to deal with. Once we take that over, though, we should hopefully just get 100% war score, as I can't imagine they're at all enthused about this war anymore. And hopefully we'll deal with all these rebels, get peace with Haiti, and we'll have a pretty solid spot to call it. Now, unfortunately, our heir, who was terrible, is now in charge of our country, but hopefully we'll be able to get him to die off pretty quick and get his new heir in charge. Meanwhile, we do get that 100%, and we just take all of their islands except for Haiti proper, and we get another revolt, which I consider dealing with in this episode, but we'll just end it here. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you have a great day, and Touggourt has still got a bit farther to go. The collapse of the Ottomans opens up a lot of room for easy expansion, although it makes the next few years a lot more dangerous, as even if we don't take advantage, we will lose considerable strength from our most steadfast ally.